ruled the block, learning names at random, if at all, instant friends. We played Smear the Queer, sandwiching a body between a bombed rubber ball and a garage door. Back then, I didn't know what a queer was, nor that I was one. Under a pear tree that never made pears, we played Narnia, and Alley Cat, recent stray George, was Aslan. He didn't have the gravitas, but he did have long absences. We'd ride bikes for hours and build trash heap forts in alleys. Don't believe we were feral? One time, 6 of us got food poisoning from the burger patties we sat on a lead paint peeling railing all afternoon, put back in the freezer, and grilled up the next day. I mean, we were 10. Everyone was. Another time, we built a treehouse in someone's yard. Everyone brought hammers and nails. No one brought wood. A softball-sized bouquet of nail heads bloomed from the lone 2x4 rung we wanged into the trunk. So, in a thunderstorm, the whole tree toppled on the steward's house, collapsing his roof, crashing through the second floor, and shouldering into his worst. I had an unsettling feeling that this was my fault. Today, I'm a certified Baltimore City tree keeper and weed warrior, I think from guilt. Perhaps you've heard of unintended consequences. All Gen X knew were untended ones. Every winter, we'd dare each other to sluice down Dead Man's Hill, skid onto the icy alley, and zoom into the traffic that slid down Cold Spring Lane. Anyone who couldn't stop would die. One kid did. I didn't know him. In fact, I didn't know anyone who knew him, but that was the lore. When I was 12, we moved. You don't know trauma until you've transitioned from Baltimore City alleys to Columbia cul-de-sacs. In the alley, bikes ruled, and we wore cutoffs and crappy shoes. In the cul-de-sacs, cars prowled like big metal cats, and every day was a red carpet run, sartorially speaking. I didn't know Kmart was classless until Wall Lake Middle School. When an entire school gives you the silent treatment, you know you have misstepped. The computer, by the way, suggested misstop for that, and landing in moneyed Howard County sure felt like a misstop for me. But still, we biked for hours, this time on the shady paths in woods near streams. Once we journeyed far enough to see horses and farms. Another time, I saved my sister from quicksand. We retrieved her leg, but lost her shoe. Knowledge was half the battle. In the summer, we'd nap on the island in Jackson Pond and study the 4 white geese as they cheapened themselves for bread. Still feral, if I got tired of listening to teachers who barely knew my name, I'd just duck out behind the band room and slip into the woods for a stroll that eventually led to my bed. This was on the same path that I once followed my crush to learn where he lived. We never spoke, but I could point out his split-level beige house with blue shutters today, if he needed me to. Columbia was built for cars pre-GPS. Despite that, it bewildered. I kept finding myself lost. Parking lots were vast plains. You could get a lot of miles in just by pounding white-lined asphalt. I kept feeling like I was walking towards something more than I was being at something. The other thing about Columbia was the roads were dumb. They dead-ended, and they spiraled, and they labyrinthed. One wrong turn, and you could spend a good 30 minutes driving around a series of increasingly menacing cul-de-sacs. Or, if you accidentally merged onto 95, 70, 29, or 40, you'd end up 2 counties away. It's why Columbia felt like a place that led to other places instead of just a place. It was in Columbia after college that I worked at a bookstore. You'd know it if I named it. I read C.S. Lewis's Great Divorce in the break room. I can still now feel his description of hell sitting in the base of my cells, like a virus. This is a quote from the book. You see, it's easy here in hell. You only have to think of a house and there it is. That's how the town keeps on growing, leaving more and more empty streets. The streets have been moving on and on, getting farther apart. They're so far off by now that they could never think of coming to the bus stop at all. Astronomical distances. There's a bit of rising ground near where I live, and a chap has a telescope. You can see the lights of the inhabited houses where the old ones live millions of miles away. Millions of miles from us and from one another. Every now and then they move farther still. That's one of the disappointments. I thought you'd meet interesting historical characters in hell, but you don't. They're too far away. I had a hard time finishing that book. It reminded me too much of where I was. In hell, Lewis said, where you could walk was limited. The grass cut like glass. That rang true too. In Colombia, the lawns were micromanaged with keep-off signs. Absent sidewalks and cool lawns meant that we walked in the roads. My neighbor, who reported us for drying our swimsuits on a line in our backyard, but hung two 10-point bucks that he'd shot with a crossbow in his backyard, drove 50 miles an hour on our 25-mile-per-hour street. And also, middle-aged ladies with clipboards wandered around checking off properties with your property. We had to repaint our door in 1989, propping it open for 24 hours in a frigid January because it wasn't the correct color. We had picked from a list of 5 prescribed options, but we skimmed the fine print. Maybe it was my Baltimore blood, but I could have brook it. I moved back to Baltimore as soon as I could. I can't say for sure why. It got in my blood is all. It feels good to walk, to jostle my neighbors in a bar, push through a clutch at a club, or sit comfortably close in a humid coffee shop to escape winter's chill. All that humanity pressing up against my psyche, reminding me of otherness and others. It feels good, all of us strangers, and none of it strange.